Hello, welcome back. It's good to see you all. I just wanted to stop in tonight and talk a little bit about, or I should say, continue talking a little bit about addictions. As it seems like there are a fair amount of people out there who are trying to kick one thing or another and reclaim control of their lives in the process. The unfortunate thing is with self-improvement is I think sometimes we tend to take a little bit too much on at a time and expect to have the it's not like we're always expecting ideal results in everything we do, but what I'm saying is that when we take on challenges, we think that the more we take on, that we will be able to persevere and endure through the crappy parts, and that since we're already suffering, we might as well take on as much suffering as we can. We think we might be able to abide so that we can just get through it and hopefully put it behind us, put all the suffering behind us all at once, which is it's a noble philosophy headspace to be in. But the thing is, with rewiring your mind and your circuitry, that sort of stuff happened over time. Like, it developed over time. It developed with compassion, love, actually, from yourself. Like, it was developed with caring and nurturing. And so when we look to yank that sort of stuff from our life, we don't typically approach it in the same way. It's definitely not well, it can be gradual, but I mean, our attitude towards it is, all right, I've finally had enough. I'm sick of this. And I'm sick of things being this way. I want change, and I want it now. So the installation of a habit or a addiction or whatever neural pathway is going to be over time and gradual with many different tendrils. I'm doing this, but I'm looking for a different word other than tendrils. But I mean, tendrils can be fine. We can just use that here. Many different tendrils into many different aspects of your life that when you try to remove it, if it all happens all too fast, you could leave a lot of, just picture these as like grown in like the mortar or the vines that seep between the rocks, and all of a sudden, if you remove them all, what happens to the structure? It, nothing at all. Just a very figurative sort of mood tonight, I guess. Is it just me, or does today feel like a Friday? It felt like a Friday all day long. Tonight feels like a Friday night. Maybe it's just a lot of people out there partying right now or making a bunch of noise. I don't know what it is. If it's just being rambunctious or what the deal is here. But so, addictions, habits, rewiring that neural pathway. Those neural pathways that we were talking about. How did I put it? The neural pathways within my pleasure networks and the pleasure pathways within my neural networks is what I had said in a previous video. And it is true because addictions form out of obviously a connection to the source of whatever you have currently chosen to be the source of your dopamine. And so, in order to convince your brain that you don't want that anymore, that your brain thinks it does, your brain gets dopamine from it. So of course, so now you have to do the convincing. It's better to have compassion when convincing, because force rarely is a good option. Force being cold turkey with no other. See, a lot of times, go ahead, try a cold turkey. Try to force yourself away from it. But what if someone forced you to quit something that you didn't want to quit? Wouldn't you be the most likely to rebel, or as soon as you possibly could relapse, just for the sake of it, just because they were making you and that you didn't really feel like you wanted to, so the desire isn't there, and or even the willingness to admit that it had become problematic, because obviously if you acknowledge something as a problem, you're going to eventually have the desire to change it. But if you don't even acknowledge something as a problem, then where would be the desire to change it? It wouldn't be there. So, I don't know why I say I just cut those out anyway. It's just more to cut out, more interjections. So trading dopamine, trading your medium, whatever brought you the dopamine, trading that medium for another medium. Oftentimes, if it's a cold turkey thing, removing one medium cold turkey and then coming in with nothing, you'll naturally find something to replace that dopamine. The problem with not having a plan is that you don't always get to choose what that is, or you might not even notice yourself choosing the other thing. It might just be an act of desperation that causes you to seek out certain things that would lead to an equitable amount of dopamine for you to supplant what was taken, or what you no longer are getting from your original source. So you are going to seek that out, those actions or those whatever it may be. You could call it what it is. I think it was a comedian once that had said, it might have been Ron White, but it could have been Bill Engvall. It was one of those two who was talking about how they don't smoke cigars anymore. Yeah, how'd you get off cigars? Oh, crack. I think it started with alcohol and it went to cigars and then it ended up with crack, and it's a whole big circle. It's just one for the other. Some people could get off of an alcohol addiction and turn into I don't know if there's a name, like what the name would be, but like compulsive spending, purchasing, or hoarding in lieu of alcoholism. You're still trying to fill that void. And it feels good to fill the void, even if it's with meaningless stuff. feels good in the moment, but that the stuff, because of how meaningless it is, doesn't have any sort of filling capacity. It's the initial feeling that you get, and then you're gonna seek more right away because it's frivolous, it's fruitless. So if you don't have a plan before you cut yourself off, if you do plan on going cold turkey, it's best to have a plan. It's best to acknowledge the different sources of dopamine first. Realize it, just put it right out there. Maybe you have a sex addiction. Maybe you have a gambling addiction, opioid, alcohol, nicotine, compulsive spending, if you give up one of those without a plan, you might be just as likely to pick up one of the other ones off that list by default without even realizing it or desiring it. But having a plan, knowing, maybe, what's the other one? Eating disorders. That's not really unless you're addicted. Yeah, eating disorders can be considered an addiction, I suppose. If you're trying to avoid an eating disorder, obviously you're not going to choose sugar as your replacement. You're going to have to choose something else. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the only real thing, well, I can't say the only, but it could very well be the only thing, would be the physical activity, which is kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people that have an eating disorder. And on the one end of the eating disorder spectrum, the other end of the eating disorder spectrum might just be a deal breaker because you don't have the bodily energy to be able to do the physical activity. But on the other end of it, you really don't have the physicality to be able to do the physical activity. So it really is kind of a double-edged sword there. Eating disorder was a good one to point out, that your replacement dopamine fix sometimes, while it might work for some people, isn't going to work for another. But I wouldn't recommend, sugar's not going to work for me, so let's try gambling. That's kind of missing the point there. Or, let's just increase masturbation or something. No, that's kind of missing the point there. You're looking to replace the dopamine fix with a healthier source of dopamine, like an appreciation for nature. Can sometimes go hand in hand with physical activity, like taking hikes, walks in nature, appreciating nature, the beauty of nature. If you like to go out and be on the water or be near water, hiking trails that have water around them, or grounding places like rock formations, mountains, hiking trails with cliffs, that sort of thing, and areas where you can be surrounded by rocky formations. Go right in the middle of it and be the most grounded, place ever. Can be that appreciation, that gratitude. While it's not going to be as potent, it is a source of dopamine, and it's a distraction. It gets you out. If you're all in your head, losing your mind over the addiction that you're trying to not think about, the best thing you can do is move your feet. Change a thought, change an action. Change an action, change a thought. If you want to change a thought, you change the action. If you're stuck in your head about something, get up, change your scenery, go walk around, take a lap around the room even. Just that momentary break from giving yourself something visually, something else to study. You'll find the most minute things to nitpick while you're walking around and notice it. Just be present with it. See what you notice. And be grateful that now you're thinking about something else. That now your mind is, and go all in, But you don't just have to go around the room. You can change the action by literally deciding that you're going to go like for a hike. You're going to go for a walk. Set the distance. Like, I'm going to go a couple blocks and just see what you see. Appreciate nature. Be out with it. Enjoy the fresh air, the smells, the sights, the sounds. That's one way to take your mind off of something if it starts to get too intense, especially if you don't just have quick little replacement fixes. Like, I recently quit nicotine, and on previous videos I talk about my replacement methods, and I didn't really want to bring any into this video for fear of, triggering someone who's trying to step away from a different addiction. But by bringing it out and talking about it, I'll just say that I replaced nicotine with every time that I had a trigger or a craving, that I would allow myself a single fruit snack. It was a dose. It was a measured dose of sugar. Sugar hits the same receptors in your brain as cocaine, and I did that in also with compassion, telling myself that this is not nicotine. I understand that, but this is good. This is much better than, you wanted the vape, but this is preferable. We like this better. And I just kept talking to myself nicely and enjoying the fruit snack. Like, they taste good, it's instead of the flavor you would get from the vape and the flavor from the fruit snack. It very effective. And I didn't want to go to straight up candy, even though fruit snacks might as well be candy. Just candy for legal candy for kids, if you want to call it that, like candy without being candy. Back in the day, I rarely got fruit snacks as a kid, but there was no candy to be had. And that one girl, smartest, I swear she was like 2 or 3 notches smarter than me, because she'd come up with some of these things that I'd be like, dang, she got that wisdom. A very small class of kids, but she had figured out that there was certain, and this could have been her parents too. Her parents were wise farmers, and she had always brought Luden's cough drops. And if you know, Luden's wild cherry cough drops were candy. There is nothing about those things that is not candy. In fact, when I attempted to secure some cough drops for my own cold that I must have caught from her somehow, and I'm there in the store trying to explain to my dad how, no, I don't want Halls. Halls taste disgusting. I want these Ludens. Ludens are the ones that's the ones that the kids like. And then my dad, of course, looks at the back, and of course they had to print the ingredients on there and compared it ingredient for ingredient, literally word for word, exactly what they use to make candy. And he said, this is just candy. Well, to an extent, Halls are made out of the same shit too. It's just they put different ingredients in there, like the menthol and the, but that all aside, I don't really know where I was going with that. Just that I didn't really want to go full on candy because I knew that, then it would be, I'd really have to watch myself. If I can just munch a fruit snack, guilt-free, there, we'll see how many fruit snacks I go through when this is all said and done. But it's been a week. I think it's been set. This is my 7th day. Haven't quite killed a box of 40 yet, so we'll see what that means for me. That's my replacement. So if you have not really going to get into the other addictions that I haven't either come across, talked to, helped someone through, understood, learned about, or experienced myself, like I wouldn't be able to tell you how to get over a gambling addiction. Other than that, the thrill of the prospect of acquiring money out of thin air and no effort is pretty appealing to a lot of people, and it's obviously a dopamine hit. So I mean, it all stems back to dopamine. Realizing that, and just realizing how connected we are to the dopamine that drives us in everything we do, even interactions. What makes someone desire to come out on top in a conversation? What makes someone desire to always have to know what they're talking about? Or what makes someone feign ignorance so that it gets explained to them, thereby causing the other person to expend excess energy only to then be met with indifference or a lack of understanding. That is an energy dynamic there that really gets into the minutia of different interactions, which can support our dopamine. Ultimately, living is one big dopamine exchange for another, and it's being aware of what brings us the best quality hits for the lowest impact on self or others. Finding that and getting rid of all the other bad stuff. That's the secret to life right there. We just cracked it. But no, I'm serious though. I mean, conversations, relationships, everything you do comes down to the balance of dopamine in your system, in your head. when you can learn to unlock that automatically so that you seek not outside yourself for it. That is true power. And what I had alluded to early on in this video, we're not 28:18 on the timer. What I had alluded to was not knowing yourself before you attempt to take on this battle of dopamine. Not understanding what keeps you scrolling continuously, what keeps you so obsessed with women. Just maybe not even particular women, just women in general, just the female form. Maybe you just love the female form. What keeps us so attracted to each other and attracted to being right about things and attracted to being on top and powerful? What is all that? What's the driving force behind that? That's all dopamine. All of it. Every single bit. Your favorite food, dopamine. Food in general, dopamine. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to, because we need to get into some of the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. I think we were talking quite a bit of meat and potatoes there. This is pretty heavy for a lot of people who haven't previously been exposed to the underlying drivers of the human condition. It can be a lot, but you're here for a reason, and I assure you, you're in good hands. We'll get through this. But if you have any questions so far, please drop them down into the comments, and I will be tentative to them. I think that's a good place to leave it for tonight. I wrote this section today. And just given that we were just on, one thing I wanted to say about the trading was that one thing I noticed about the triggers when they do pop up, which the more often you can tell yourself no to a trigger, to a craving, you tell yourself no, replace it with something. You say, if you're allowing yourself off of something and still allowing yourself that something every now and then, you can say, okay, but this first. You say, okay, but I want to go 15 minutes before I do. 15 minutes is reasonable. Let's wait the 15 minutes and then we'll see how we feel. But then, absolutely, on minute 15, do that thing. But if you don't wait and you give into it right away, you're not rewiring anything in your brain. If you're not replacing it with something else, if you're not saying, no, but let's do this instead, you're not teaching your brain, hey, okay, I can still get my dopamine, but we don't necessarily have to do the bad thing anymore. We can do this thing instead. Okay, I'm not really liking because it's not as potent, but it'll do. You can train yourself to make it sufficient. And that is the two different ways of walking away from a dopamine fix. But since we're talking about that, and since we narrowed it down to dopamine, my topic in this excerpt from today actually had, I was not talking about dopamine, but it very much can be traced back. Every single word of it can be traced back to dopamine. It's called Slave. And it's a series of statements. Let's get into it. They hijack your reality and then sell the experiences back to you in manageable pieces of profitability for them. You have then become not just a slave to them, but a slave of them to yourself. This places you in a perpetual state of competition with the other slaves within your perceived peer group, and in competition with yourself on the ability to outperform others in the constant struggle to expend the minimal amount of energy for the highest return, keeping the subject trapped in the karmic loop of insignificance. That has such a deep actual meaning to it that I think for tonight, we just want to talk about the application to dopamine. When I talked about reality and experiences, manageable pieces of profitability and stuff, really what I'm talking about is the way that society is set up is geared for them to sell you happiness. That's what they want to be able to do, is sell you happiness, sell you security, sell you freedom. Basically anything. Package it up and sell it to you. The sense of these things. But happiness in particular can be traced back to dopamine, the experience. They hijack your reality by making you distrusted or making you feel like it's not enough, not adequate. They hijack it from you, making you shoot holes in it, thinking that only their reality is worthwhile. Only the reality that you're shown is, of course, the one that you don't have, because the one that you have automatically wouldn't be is worth a lot, but it wouldn't be of a commodity to sell because you already have it. So they have to sell you on an idea of something that you don't have, get you interested in it, and then give you the price tag. This is how you may achieve it. It puts you in a state of competition with others, because the minute everyone else has the same reality that you're going for, it kind of takes away the appeal now. What they're trying to do is single you out. You are the king of the hill. You are the only one with that specific whatever, or at least one of few in town that has it, possibly. But the minute you go out and get your beautiful green Dodge Hellcat Challenger, and then 5 other people in town also go and get one, kind of takes away the appeal and makes it kind of like a special grocery getter then, right? Because when you start seeing them at the laundromat, and you start seeing them at the Walgreens, and you start seeing them just about everywhere, going through McDonald's drive-thrus, whatever it is, it takes away their appeal. You see them just being regular cars again. There's no the unicornism is gone. That's what they want to do. And so in your perpetual state of competition with other slaves is you trying to come out more superior for that feeling of dopamine, but also protecting your place from dilution, from being diluted by the other slaves. Because then it just goes right back to being reality again. Wherever you go, there you are. You know, if your favorite vacation city, say, and then you go live there and become a local, that's all vacation stuff is gone at that point. Now you were hating the vacationers for disturbing your peace and screwing stuff up for you, versus being one of the vacationers that was completely oblivious to the rest of it. It's two different sides of the coin there. It's the pedestal and the unicorn and the dilution of it. I just wonder if we've potentially gone too far for what can be contained in a singular video here. So I might just revisit this again in the future. But for tonight, I believe all topics that I had intended to cover got covered. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope that this conversation resonated with you. If it did, let me know. Drop a like, subscribe, comments. Let me know how your journey is going. And also let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. Because I am here to help people. And reaching out is step number one in conquering the isms of your life, whatever they may be. So until next time, never stop spreading your light. I forgot there was one other thing that I wanted to say quick about relapsing, is when, let me see if I can do something about the light real quick. Okay, is when I feel closest to the potential to relapse is actually when I feel farthest from my course of guiding my course of regimen that I'm using to supplement what I'm trying to remove from my life. So if, let's just call it what it is in this section here, I'm stepping away from nicotine. And so I replaced it with sugary fruit snacks. When I'm munching on fruit snacks, I feel fine. I've gotten to the point where I don't. Also, because there was there was a time when I would be munching on fruit snacks and simultaneously hitting my vape. But I've gotten to the point where I don't desire the vape if I have a fruit snack, thankfully. But now, at the moments when I'm closest to just grabbing a vape and taking a puff are the times when I've either told myself no fruit snacks, or I haven't gotten myself a fruit snack, or not reminded myself of my different tools, like moving the feet, getting up, grabbing a fruit snack. doing something. Why am I getting hit with this all of a sudden? But that's just telling me this video needs to come to an end. But I just wanted to say that when I feel the closest to a relapse is when I'm the farthest away from my security lifelines that I've set up for myself. And it can happen with a lot of things. When you go outside of your plan, your sobriety plan, or whatever it is, if you're talking about sobriety, you deviate from that plan, you're going to be the closest to relapsing. And it's going to come from a desire within, because you've told yourself you've abandoned what has been effective. And the minute you abandon it, your mind is going to try to put you right back onto the old way. Well, okay, if this new way is not going to work and we're not doing that anymore, we're going back to the old way, and it makes it 10 times stronger, that urge. So if you ever find yourself getting that urge, do a checklist. Make sure that you're also doing your lifelines, each and every one of them. Because you never know what one day might be a fruit snack, next day might be a walk. Could, achieve different things. So just be mindful of that, because if I've noticed a weakness in any of this, it's me not adhering to my lifelines. So best of luck to you. Let me know if you need any help. And as always, never stop spreading your light.